Peace and dynamic blessings to all of you. In just one moment, I'll be starting my Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific Time IG Live. And I'm having the wonderful Anita Posh with me this afternoon, author of Shallow Waters. But before we bring her on, I just wanted to remind you that your life is significant. It's magnificent. You're not an accident. You are an on purpose with a purpose. And so if there are any remnants of any thought forms that got you wondering whether you matter, whether you're important, whether you're an accident, we want to always eliminate those thought forms. We want to come to an awareness that you emerged from the eternal. You have a reason and a right to be here. You have a mandate to reflect and to reveal the cosmos in a way that has never, ever happened before. Because you are a unique emanation of God. We are waiting just a moment to begin. We're going to pull on Anita at this moment. Have this wonderful interview as she's coming on. What I want you to know about her is that, hey Anita, how you doing?
Hello.
Look at that beautiful face.
I'm so happy to be on.
Hey, I'm glad you're with me this morning. I'm just about to let people know who you are, and we can begin our conversation. But if you don't know who Anita Posh is, award-winning writer and spiritual psychologist, author of the highly acclaimed debut novel Shallow Waters, former editor-in-chief of the Heart and Soul magazine, former managing editor of the Beauty Sense magazine. She founded the Zero F's Given campaign to raise awareness and help victimized and disenfranchised populations heal from sexual trauma, to find their voice, and to reclaim their power. Anita has a passion to see people thrive. Through leading retreats around the world with private clients and storytelling, she fulfills her intention to awaken the divine simplicity, the pleasure, and the joy in her life and the life of others. Anita traveled to Kemet with me at one point. We went to explore the land of Kemet. You might know it as Egypt. Went through the Nile, went through the temples, had powerful ceremony, and we've hung out with each other in New York. And she's a powerful, beautiful, magnificent being. Anita, welcome.
Thank you so much. It is such an honor to be here. Just a couple of minutes before I came on, I was thinking about the first time I came to Agape, which was probably, so Sadie is 17, so about 17 or 16 years ago.
Wow.
And one of my friends had told me that she wanted me to go to church with her. And I was like, oh yeah, no, I can't do church anymore. I was like, I don't know, my body won't go. And she's like, you'll like this one, Anita, you'll like it. And so I was like, okay, I'll go. And so Sadie was just a baby in the back, and we drive up. And when I tell you the way that, I guess it was because I had a baby in the back, but I didn't know it at the time. You know, people saw me, they ushered me to the front, right? Like I drove up to the front. I had this parking space right in front. I'm like, what's happening, right? So I get Sadie out, and as soon as I heard you speak, I knew I was home.
Wow. Wow. And you've been tuning in and traveling ever since.
Exactly.
And you've done some powerful work. I remember when I saw you at, I guess it was at the airport, or we were getting ready, we were in Egypt. I can't remember.
In Egypt.
But I can remember you crossing the floor and our eyes met, and I knew you.
Yes.
I know. This is a soul connection from way back.
Yes, exactly. So thank you for being you.
Thank you for being you as well. And your daughters, my God, you know, you're raising some very powerful queens there.
Thank you.
You know, that's one of the, you know, wearing the hood of mother. You know, if we can bring some beings onto the planet, even wearing the hood of father, that have good hearts, that has
Yeah.
really high intentionality, that are embracing their growth and unfoldment, that's a great job for the planet.
Yes. Ashe.
To birth
Ashe.
and shepherd good beings on the planet. It's
Yes.
powerful. And you're doing that, and you've done that.
Thank you.
Now, this book you just wrote, this is your debut novel.
It is.
Yamaya.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell me about why you chose to make her the main character of the book, and give me a little background on it.
Absolutely. So Yemeya is an Orisha. For those of you who don't know who she is, Yemeya, Yemoja, she's called, basically she has different names throughout the African diaspora. And she is a black mermaid. She is said to be the mother of us all, and was the spirit that watched over our ancestors as they went over the Middle Passage. She looked over the ancestors that were on the ships and the ones that either chose to jump or were thrown off. And I feel like I didn't necessarily choose Yemeya. She chose me, right?
Mm,
Like I
right.
just, all of a sudden, it was like this story was on my heart and it had to come out. And to me, it felt like she was actually sitting on the bed telling me the story. I had no outline. I didn't know what it was going to be about. It just kept coming out. And there were so many, as you can imagine, so many magical moments within the book, because the book is, it takes place in the 1800s. And I imagine Yemeya as a 17-year-old, so before she knew she was a goddess. And so this is her journey of finding herself. And starts off on the west coast of Africa. I won't tell the whole story, but it starts off in the west coast of Africa. She falls in love with a fisherman, Obatala, who is also an Orisha, a god, and he is kidnapped by the slave ships, and she follows the slave ships underwater. And
Because she's a mermaid.
she's a mermaid, so she has her own Middle Passage underwater.
Right.
And once they get to land, she has to, it takes 40 days and 40 nights for her to turn into a human. And so she's lost him. So really the whole book is about her trying to find her love in this place where her skin color makes her a slave. And there's a lot of historical figures in the book. And so it's a really great teaching tool, I would say. I'm not always supposed to share this, but I did write it for young adults, but the publishers, Simon & Schuster, decided that it needed to be an adult
That book is for everybody. That book is for everybody. I was just talking to one of my producers here, and she picked up the book and started reading it. She says, "Oh, this is a good book. I'm definitely going to read this." You know,
I love it.
I think, but I'm glad that it's going to touch the heart of the young people, because right now, you know, they need it desperately with the trauma that's happening on the planet at this particular time. And to have a heroine that goes through this kind of transformation is very powerful. Now, obviously, you know, Harper's Bazaar, BuzzFeed, Publishers Weekly, you know, they're raving about the book.
Yes.
And one of the things that you deal with is the healing of ancestral trauma.
Yes.
You know, so how does this book take that on?
So,
well, first of all, for anybody that's listening, break down what ancestral trauma is, and then deal with how the book deals with it.
So ancestral trauma is any trauma that our ancestors might have gone through, and sons and daughters of the African diaspora have a lot of ancestral trauma to deal with, because our ancestors, you know, experienced the Middle Passage, they experienced chattel slavery, they've experienced all kinds of very horrific traumas. And what happens is that those traumas can be passed down, not only spiritually, but it's passed down within our DNA, within our body, so we can actually feel it. And sometimes, a lot of times, our behaviors. So our grandmother or great grandmother, you know, they might have been scared to let us go in the water, and so there's something, you know, there are different behaviors that can be passed down. So for me, this book was healing my ancestral traumas from chattel slavery. And the way that it did that was I allowed myself to actually feel what they went through. Because for me, you know, I do have to say, like, movies and books about slavery are not my favorite. And so it's interesting
Right.
that this is what ended up coming out of me. And when I allowed myself to open up and really feel what they might have felt, and I it's just, I went through a whole cathartic, very emotional experience. I mean, my kids could open the door and see me crying on the floor while I was writing this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I set the intention in the book that anybody who reads it begins their healing of their ancestral traumas. And so I know, you know, that, you know, it's not just the words that are on the page, it's all the intentions that I put in it. It's all of those things that are weaved within the medicine story that
Right. Right. People are reading a story. It's an inspirational, transformational story, but they're getting your underlying intentionality to
yes,
heal.
yes,
And the beautiful thing about it is that people need to understand that everything is healable. You know,
yes,
whether the trauma is the ancestral trauma, or whether it's a trauma from when you were a small girl or small boy, whatever the case may be, people have to come to an understanding that all of that can be embraced,
yes,
acknowledged, transmuted, transformed, and transcended, so that individuals aren't going through their entire life holding on to the energy of what's happened to them or what's happened to their ancestors. And
yes,
oftentimes people don't really get that,
yeah,
that it can be healed,
yes,
because there is something about us that's so dynamic and so powerful, you know,
yes,
so spiritual, untouched by trauma. And so
yes,
you know, and you're a spiritual psychologist.
yes,
So tell the readers a little bit about what that means, because you know me, I train spiritual therapists here at the
yes,
college, and
yes,
they work deeply to remove the blocks and the hindrances and the obstacles from people able to see who they are.
yeah.
So I imagine this is what you're doing. You know.
It is. It is. So with spiritual psychology, it has all of the different layers of psychology, but it's the layer of spirit is added in there as well. And I mean, for me, I can't even say the layer of spirit is added in there. The spirit is like wrapped around it.
Right.
And for most of the people that I work with, uh, I'm just seeing that Dr. Velma Love came on and she wrote the foreword to Shallow Waters.
Oh,
So,
outstanding. And
yes,
I got an endorsement in there too.
yes, you do. Yes, you do. And so as a spiritual psychologist, I mostly work with people who have experienced some sort of sexual trauma. And for me, it's more of like a personal thing because I have gone through that. I was molested when I was 7, and I've gone through the whole journey of healing that. And for me, it took, I mean, almost my lifetime, right, to
Right.
heal it. But that's only because I didn't even realize that there was a possibility that I could heal the issues that I
Right.
had until I was in my late 30s.
Yes.
And once I realized that, I actually realized it because one of my daughters was exhibiting behaviors as if she had been molested. And the person who told me that had known my background. And she said, well, how old were you when you were molested? And I was like, oh, I was 7. And she's like, how old is your daughter? And I was like, oh, she's 7. And she's like, oh, so she's probably just, feeling the things that you went through when you were young. And I'm like, wait a minute, is that a thing? Is that a possibility? She was
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, if you don't heal, you pass it on.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's in the subconscious. Whatever you don't deal with subconsciously, sometimes your kids reflect it back to you.
Woo.
Yeah.
Once she told me that, I went in. I was like, okay, I need to heal this before like this. I cannot pass this. And so I actually went, because I had gone to talk therapy, which helped me to a point of being able to talk about it, but I was still, you know, not able to enjoy intimacy. You know, I'd run away from pleasure. I had all of these issues that I didn't think were curable, like what you were talking about. It just didn't seem like they were. And so I finally, I would say, respected myself enough to figure out a healing journey. And I went on it and I healed myself.
Yes,
Like
yes,
really
yes.
healed myself.
Yeah. No, you're a powerful advocate for women, for the healing of sexual trauma. You know, you have the Zero F's program. You know what I mean? I
Yes.
won't say the word, but everybody knows what F means. You
Exactly.
know, and the book itself, Shallow Waters, you know, carries the frequency of first, it's an adventure, it's transformation,
Yes,
but it carries the frequency of healing.
it does. And
Uh,
it's interesting you say that, because within the book, I consciously do not have Yemeya experience rape or anything of that sort, because in every other enslaved African narrative that I have read or watched, the women are raped.
yes,
And
right.
so what I did with this one was, it was, while she does go through a lot of trauma, I switched that narrative around so that she was protected in that sense.
No, I think that's powerful to add that kind of narrative and that kind of possibility. Now, what was you talked a little bit about sometimes going through the experience. You know, what was your writing process like?
Yeah. So, oh, my writing process. So I had so many different parts of the process. And I remember someone within the business had told me, when he found out that I was writing a book, he said, listen, this is an emotional process. Just know that. And I was like, what? Like, what do you mean? Woo. I had no idea how emotional it was to write a book, first of all, or how emotional it can be. It did
Right.
end up being very emotional for me. But the process for me, I really would open myself up to the guidance from Yemeya, and she would tell me the story that would go along. And then what was really interesting is that the characters, some of the historical figures that are within there, the way that they came up in my life to tell me that they wanted to be in the story. There was one when I was still the editor-in-chief of Heart and Soul magazine, which Michael Beckwith was actually on one of my favorite covers when I was at Heart and Soul. So that was really exciting.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yes. So when I was there, I was writing the book. So I was, because I was writing this book, I had a day job, I was a mom, I was doing all kinds of things. And then in the middle of the night, I would write this book. So while I was writing, Harriet Tubman wanted to be in the book. And so I wrote this part where she gave a 2-year-old a tincture to make her fall asleep while they were on the Underground Railroad. And when I woke up the next day, I was like, I don't know if I want to put that in there, because I don't know if Harriet Tubman was an herbalist. I'm probably going to take it out. But I had to go that day to a sales meeting in the city for Heart and Soul. And it was in this restaurant. And the restaurant was open to other people. So once the sales meeting was over, this woman came up to me. And the first thing she says to me is, do you know that Harriet Tubman was an herbalist? And that,
the universal presence just brought her right to you.
like that, and I was just like, why did you just say that to me? She's like, I don't know, I just read it this morning, and it's it's Black History Month, and you looked like that, like you would want to know that. She was a Black woman as well, but it was just like, I was like, all right, Harriet, don't worry. I'm not going to take that part out of the book. So,
Oh, that's powerful. That was probably Harriet's spirit guiding that woman over to you.
right.
Now, let me ask you this. When did you know? I mean, obviously, you've been on the healing journey, but when did you know that you yourself were a facilitator of healing? A healer.
Yes,
When did you know that?
that was actually when I was really young. I was, for most of my life, I've seen spirits. I've seen spirits my whole life, but that didn't make me feel like a healer. That really just made me feel scared
Yeah,
when I was younger.
that's a story that's told a lot by people. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. And then when I was around 18, I went to UC Berkeley, and I this one day when I was walking to school, I started hearing voices.
Mm.
And I got really nervous because I thought I was going to have to be committed. I didn't know what was happening, and the voices were not saying nice things.
Mm.
And what was happening is that I would hear things, and then so I was like, okay, well, let me just see what's going on while I'm hearing them. And I realized that I would hear voices as I'm passing someone, and then the voice would go away. And so I was like, am I hearing what people are thinking? And I'm like, what is happening? So as an 18-year-old with no discernment, not to say that 18-year-olds can't have discernment, but I didn't.
Right.
I started telling people what I was hearing. So then they were getting scared and calling me demon because I'm telling them what they're thinking and they didn't know, right?
You're a witch.
I'm a witch. Exactly. All of those things. And until this one man, he was smiling and he was talking to me, and all I could hear him say was, I don't know where my wife and kids are. And so I said, I know you don't know where your wife and kids are, but everything's going to be okay. And he grabbed me. And he was like, what do you mean you don't know? Where are they? Where are my wife and kids? How do you know? And so I got really scared. I got away from him. I ran home. I ran upstairs and I started praying to God. Like, I got on my knees and I was like, I think that this is supposed to be a gift, but it doesn't feel like a gift. Please take it away. Allow me to have something that I can handle. And by the time I woke up, I didn't hear any of those voices again, but I had a dream that I was throwing stones. And so I started doing that. And so it was around 18 that I started like doing readings. So people started coming to me for readings and I would throw stones. So that way I was able to open up the space. And
throwing stones is a way where we read the subconscious. People.
Oh.
Right. I want people to understand when you say throwing stones, you're not outside throwing rocks,
No. No. So yes, I would have like some stones in my hand, some crystals really, and then I would throw them and then read them. And what eventually I didn't need any tools, and I would just be able to read people. Right. And so that was how it started. But what really was happening is that people just kept coming back, and not really changing anything in their lives. Right. So it didn't feel like I didn't feel like I was helping them in any way. And so that was when I decided to get my master's in spiritual psychology so that I had more tools to give. So it's been a long journey. I've been on it for a while.
Yeah, you've been on a long healing journey. And the thing about it is, as the statement goes, physician, heal thyself. You healed yourself first, or you were in the process of healing yourself while you were working with other people. Now tell us about, I want to come back to the book at the end, but I want you to tell us about your nonprofit, Zero Given. And how did that emerge, and what's the philosophy around it?
Okay, so I actually have a sweatshirt on, so I'll show that.
And
so
I have a t-shirt.
This is my Zero F's Given sweatshirt. Mm-hmm. And how it actually came to me is the way it's so funny. So many things come to me in this way, which is in the middle of the night. Yeah. I just wake up, which is why I tell people to keep a journal by their bed.
Yes.
because there's been so many things that come to me. Like woke up in the middle of the night, I drew the logo and I wrote down exactly what it was. And so what Zero F's Given is actually a day on 11/11, an annual day on 11/11, where if you are a part of ZFG, of Zero F's Given, you pledge to give 0 F's, literally, so sexual abstinence,
No
on
sex.
that. So, yep, so 0 F's, and in honor of anyone who has experienced any sort of sexual trauma. And I work with, I'm on the board of the Center for Safety and Change. And so a lot of the money that I do bring into Zero F's Given, I give to the Center for Safety and Change to help with young women who have been trafficked, for people who have been in domestic violence situations or have been raped. You know, during this time, all of our services have gone up about 70%.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's been very intense. The youngest woman that we've helped this last year for trafficking was 7 years old, and that's in New York. You know, so it's just interesting how many people are going through such intense times. And so that was actually why I wanted to do this nonprofit. And also
You're actually allowing it to, you're teasing it into consciousness so people aren't sleeping on the fact that this is happening today. You know, an awareness that so people can't just kick it under the rug and pretend it used to happen.
Yes.
It's still happening. Be alert. We need to be aware. We need to be compassionate. We need to support organizations such as the one you just mentioned that are doing that kind of work. We at Agape, we donate money to organizations that are assisting people come back to themselves after being sexually trafficked as well. So a lot of times people want to turn a blind eye to some of the issues.
Yeah.
But the Zero F's Given is bringing people's attention. Like, this is going on, guys.
Yes.
So take a day, one day out of the year, don't have sex, bring that into your awareness, and then ask, what is it that you can do?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's so interesting because I was just on a panel with Queen Afua, and yes, we love her. And she was saying, ask, listen, take action.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that you said, and ask yourself, what can you do? Because that's so true. Because we can all do something. If we can't give money, maybe we can give time. And a lot of times when we think about, oh, what is our excuse? Like, for a lot of times our excuse will be the same thing for everything, because how we do anything in life is how we do everything. So if your excuse is that you don't have enough money or you don't have enough time, it's really dropping into what it is, because those can be excuses. And I've gone through all of the different realities, you know, feel like having 17 cents with 3 kids and not knowing how I'm going to feed them. And, you know, when I was living through that, it was very interesting because Sadie, my oldest, when I was checking my bank account one day, saw the 17 cents, and she looked and she was like, oh my gosh, Mommy, are we poor? And I was like, do you feel poor? She was like, no, I have everything that I need. I was like, no, then you're not poor. We are not poor.
There you go. There you go.
So, you know, and even during that time, she had actually started a thing called Cause Kids, where she raised $5,000 by singing, because she's an amazing voice. She raised $5,000 for GEMS, which is another nonprofit in the city that helps young girls who have been trafficked. So even in that time when we had 17 cents,
she was rich in the spirit.
Exactly.
She didn't know.
Exactly.
But that's also, again, a testimony for you wearing the hood of mother, because you didn't allow the poverty consciousness to come into your kids, even though you didn't have money at the moment. You didn't allow that to filter into their awareness thus she could ask the question, are we poor?
Yeah.
You know, so that's I think that's a testimony of your consciousness and your bright spirit, going through your particular journey at that time in your particular history. Now, a couple of things before we sign off. You lead retreats around the world.
Yes.
God, with the Goddess Wisdom Council.
Yes.
I've seen the work that you've done. I think you had me do something one time.
Yes, we did. You did. You wrote a beautiful letter for them.
But what is the you know, I know it's focused on a lot of self-love and appreciation, self-renewal, really people getting back in touch with themselves.
Yes, it is. So we lead retreats around the world. So it's called the Goddess Wisdom Council. There's 5 women within it. It's me, my sister Ivana, Yadi Alba, Cora, and Corey Ann. So Corey Ann, you know, from Agape. She went with us to Egypt. Right. And we all 5 of us work on different things within the retreat. So for me, I work with healing sacred sexuality and sensuality, and also working with our ancestors. And our next retreat is in Mexico, March 25th to March 29th. And we don't have that many spots open. I think there's probably about 10 spots left, but I have to check on that to make sure. But this right now is actually the only way to work with me directly, because I don't have private clients anymore.
Right.
I've moved on to working with people in retreats, and then, you know, I'm writing again my next thing. So
the muse is on you.
The muse is on me. I love when the muse is on me. It's beautiful.
Well, anything else you want to leave us regarding shallow waters? I was asked for 2 things. Anything you want to say about shallow water that you would say later? Oh, I wish I would have said that. And then secondly, how do people get in touch with you, and where do they buy the book?
Absolutely. So Shallow Waters for me is my love letter to Black women. And what is really beautiful about it is that my intention was for Black women to remember who we really are. And what has been happening is that I've been getting messages from all different kinds of people, everyone saying they remember they're remembering who they are. From Indigenous women, white men, Black men, you know, like everyone. Asian.
You're dealing with universal truths.
Yes, and so everyone, you know, it's been really awesome. This one woman sent me a video of her and her 7-year-old daughter, you know, reading it, which I didn't realize people as young as 7 would be reading it, because it is very intense. So, you know, hopefully you are explaining if you do decide to read it with a child as young as 7. But I'm getting all of these beautiful messages. So yes, universal truths. And I'm seeing all my friends. I didn't get to say hi to everyone, but hello. Oh, if someone could take a screenshot and send it to me, I would love it. Will this be posted?
Yeah, for everybody that's on my Instagram live, this will be on my page forever. So you can you can tell your friends, if you missed this interview with Anita, to come back and watch it, and then she'll have a link to it as well.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. Yes, it is on Amazon. It's on Barnes and Noble. It's in Target. It's pretty much everywhere. I think it's great to support independent bookstores as well. I was actually when they were asking me who I wanted to do my main launch with, I was actually looking for your bookstore, and at the time that I looked for it, it wasn't open. Is your bookstore closed? The Quiet Mind bookstore?
Well, because of the COVID situation, it's not open, but online we're open, so we can get we will get your book and have it online.
Okay. All right. Because I was looking for it, because they asked me what bookstore did I want to do my launch with, and so I was like looking for the Quiet Mind one, and I was like, oh no, I think
No,
it
we're, we're,
closed. I can't
we're
even
still
tell
here.
you
We're
how
still
many
here.
books I bought from there.
Well, we will circulate your book as well. I'll make sure somebody gets in contact with you, and we'll get the book here.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate
Absolutely.
you.
Hey, this has been great. I appreciate you. I appreciate the effort you put into Shallow Waters. The artwork is good too.
Thank you. Yes, it's by my friend Molly Finley.
Very good artwork. It's very beautiful.
Thank you.
It looks beautiful. It is beautiful. You're beautiful. Your work is beautiful. And we'll have to talk soon.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Bye, everyone. Love you.
Have a beautiful day.
You too.
So everyone, thank you for tuning in today with my beloved sister, Anita Kopaj. Shallow Waters is her debut novel. And she's getting such great reviews on this book. So, and as you heard her say, it's for everybody. It was a love letter to Black women, but it transcended that, and it's a love letter to everyone to help to discover and find and journey their way back home, which is what we're all about, to come back home to ourselves as the emanation of the Most High, loaded and coated with infinite potential, surrounded by infinite possibilities and infinite opportunities. That's how we want to live our life every single day. I'm surrounded by a presence that's cradling me, the presence. I'm embraced by infinite potential, infinite opportunities, and opportunity never knocks once. It is infinite and perpetual. It is forever. And so when we live life from that vantage point, we begin to see opportunities and possibilities that heretofore we could not have seen. So thank you for tuning in today. We'll see you on Sunday at one of our 3 services, or all of our 3 services. Some of you stay all day at agapelive.com or Agape's Facebook page, or the YouTube page, my YouTube page, or Agape's YouTube page. The services will be streamed directly to you. So have a bright day. If you want to have moments of affirmative prayer, you can go to Agape's Facebook page, and at 8 a.m. every day, except for Sunday, there'll be a practitioner leading that. 12 p.m., a practitioner is leading a meditation service on our Facebook page. And on Friday evening, 5 o'clock Pacific time, there's a community gathering. It's a very intimate time where people come together and are able to associate with each other and have high conversation. So those are just some of the things that we're doing at Agape. You want to know more? Go to agapelive.com. This is Michael B. Beckwith saying peace and richest blessings. Have a bright day.